Welcome to Moms with a Call. We're not here to preach, convert, or fix you. We're here to listen.
We're McKenzie
And Rebecca, two women with messy stories, honest questions, and a quiet hope that maybe Jesus looks a lot more like love than we were ever shown. If you've ever wondered if there's a place for you in all of this, there is. Come, have a seat at the table. You're safe here. You're welcome here. Let's begin.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, we're diving into I guess this is the official part, but this is part 2 of your testimony.
Yes.
And this is the very beginning of your childhood. So the beginning of your story. And so we're going to have listeners kind of listen to it. I've listened to it, I've read it, and then we're going to kind of check back in and do some reflection questions. So Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
This part of the story is narrated by a version of myself that was a child. I understand that with all stories, there may be many different narrations, but this was mine. I was a strong-willed child, as most would describe me. But was I? I never felt strong. I never felt willful. I just felt as if I was a deeply emotional child with a desperate need to be understood. And if not that, at least a desperate need to be heard. Growing up in a time where society would deem that as too much or too emotional or too loud. The reality was really that I could just feel everything. I feel past the depths of my bones. I feel others' pain physically placed on me. I feel the energy around me. Good, bad, despair, confusion, joy. And my body, in turn, would respond to whatever emotion was around me and adapt to it. Deep stuff, right? You are just too sensitive. It's not that serious, is what I heard often. But to me, it was. Was I too sensitive? Was I strong-willed? Too emotional? I believe since I was created that I was gifted as a feeler. But the downside to being a feeler is that if you don't have a light to guide you, you can take on too much and self-implode. My childhood came with a very large family. Grandparents on both sides who came from immediate families of at least 3 to 7 children. That meant lots of aunts, uncles, cousins, and even a great-grandma who was around for 19 years of my life. Most of my family's stories sounded the same. Parents that came from little, that would in turn inspire a period of hard work that eventually would lead to a materially fruitful life. We were fortunate, privileged even. Ancestors who worked hard for the next generation, a loud childhood with lots of adventure, learning, love, and a large support system for when it was time for the children of that generation to experience adulthood for themselves. Of course, none of this came without its periods of darkness, trials, and despair for my family members. This looked like tragic accidents, loss of children, loss of spouses, divorce, mental illness, alcoholism, addiction, loss of siblings, abandoned parental figures, repeated cancer diagnosis, an Alzheimer diagnosis, family members taking in other family members due to death, lack of money, or abandonment, miscarriages, physical health preventing typical daily routines, and the list goes on. Deep-rooted pain and trauma, valleys that would require a type of spiritual savior to get them through. So why should my story be any different? In our home, I had one parent who was deeply religious and one who was not. We still attended church all the same. As I got a little older, the religious dynamic of my parents felt like balance, freedom of choice for us to steward our own spiritual paths, and sometimes confusion, if I'm being completely honest. I grew up in the church. I knew the Bible stories, the expectations religion placed on society, the rights, the wrongs, the do's, the don'ts, and the steps to baptism that would lead to life as a Christian. Attending church, I felt as though I was taught how to be a good Christian, but not nearly enough about who Christ actually was, if at all. Who was this man I was supposed to be serving, essentially? Why did I need his approval? Why is he so strict and at times what felt like unloving? Why did it feel like love was preached every Sunday, but not necessarily being lived out into the world? Why did it feel like there were stipulations on that love? Why were there outcasts? Why were people being turned away? This did not seem like something I wanted to be a part of. He did not seem like someone I needed. As a child, I already felt a need to be understood, and now, as an adolescent, my interpretation of what was being preached to us every Sunday was not someone I felt would understand me. So as I started to walk away, it seemed as though the hope and peace were slowly leaving my soul to stay behind. But I would be fine, right? It was better than staying in a circle of peers that I did not relate to, or following someone who would never understand me. Confusion was at the tip of my spirit, but I let my questions die inside of me and walked on. I would find my light, a light that honored not just me, but everyone. This way was better. As a feeler who was now walking my own created path, the first thing I felt was, oddly enough, relief. I didn't have to adhere to all these rules per se. I didn't have to live up to what felt like unrealistic expectations anymore. I didn't have to try to get to know this man in the sky that I had no interest in knowing, because I felt like he could never truly know and accept the depths of me. I was imperfect, deeply flawed. I had outbursts. I didn't feel patient. I wasn't kind all the time. One thing I did know was that at the core of my being, I deeply cared for others. And if he didn't care for everyone like I did, then I was not interested in hearing his reasons why. What started as a child needing to be understood turned into a teenager who was nothing but self-righteous, and down in the depths of my soul, there was nothing but fear. I was now walking in a world with a masked perception of what spiritual freedom looked like. I was a dainty little flower desperate to be a tree. A tree resembled strength. It had firm roots, and it was unshakable. But I did not have a gardener to help me become a tree, so I became stone. At the time, it felt like it was my only option. I didn't have the tools to plant a tree and maintain it. I had to survive. So I chose the path of hardened rock, and along came my good old friend, self-destruction, to accompany me along the way.
Alrighty. Thank you for sharing with us and being so vulnerable. I know it's not easy to talk about your childhood.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, when you have, especially when you have a great relationship with your family, it's hard to talk about maybe some of the things that weren't great and you didn't love or you didn't carry over. So I am asking these questions, obviously, with the utmost respect for your family, for you. I just want to get into your head a little bit more, see how this impacted you.
Sure.
So I have on my phone, I'm going to look down, but what labels from childhood, like strong-willed or too sensitive, impacted your identity the most?
Definitely the too sensitive. And honestly, all of it. I think what I did was I knew this was how people would describe me. And so I leaned into that. I was like, I am sensitive, or I am hard-headed. I'm stubborn. Like, I remember explaining myself that way to people. I'm like, I don't
Well, that's
feel
just what people tell me.
right. There was always this confusion there because I was like, I don't really feel that way. But I would do this tactic where if I made fun of myself first for being too sensitive or too stubborn, it was like made it a little more light. Like I'm sure a therapist can diagnose that. But yeah, I really leaned into that and accepted it, and then would verbalize it before anyone else could call me that again.
Do you remember the first time that you did that? I know it's probably hard to do
honestly, I probably would have been older, like middle school,
Oh,
high
interesting.
school. But looking back, like, I am a sensitive soul.
Yeah.
So it's not
There's
too
nothing
far off.
wrong with being
No.
sensitive.
I think it's the too sensitive.
Yeah.
Like, that's
a
too
little
much.
too much. Your
Right.
feelings are too much.
Right. And that wasn't necessarily labeled on me by my parents. That could look anything like other family members, like grandparents or teachers or,
What about friends?
I don't remember friends
Really?
saying that.
Oh, I was like, you don't
Yeah.
remember friends at all? Or
No,
you
I don't
don't
remember. I don't
Okay.
remember friends
saying
feeling.
you were too sensitive.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if it, looking back now and having a daughter,
Mhm.
do you feel at times that she is overly sensitive or too sensitive, or it's just part of being a child?
I do think it's part of being a child. I do think my daughter and myself, I would more describe it as like deeply
Feeling?
feeling.
hmm
She's a deeply feeling, or what's the correct
Deeply
word?
feeling kid or
Child.
child. I think Dr. Becky calls them deeply feeling kids because
Yes.
I have a deeply feeling kid.
Yes. Yes, where it is hard to navigate, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's such a gift that they can feel the depths that they can. And I talk about that too, where
Mhm.
if you don't have someone or something to guide you with those feelings, you just,
Internalize them all.
well, I
and-
think you soak it all in and then you self implode, whether that looks like outbursts, disassociating. I think you really have to get to know your feelings.
and figure out how to, just like we talked about in the
Mhm.
last episode, you didn't really have any tools.
Yes,
You didn't know how to regulate them.
exactly.
And so I think how do you I also think it's hard because I don't think I was given any tools when I was growing up, and there's nothing against my mom. I don't think she had tools.
Oh, absolutely. They don't have Dr. Becky at their fingertips.
No.
Like, I'm sorry that they don't,
I
because
wish
she
they
is
did,
a
yeah.
gift.
Yeah.
They didn't have these resources. That's why there's so much grace from me with
Mhm.
our childhood,
Yeah.
where, I mean, they would
They had to
have
go
to
to Barnes
pay,
and Noble.
or they would have to go see a therapist at that time and
Oh, I didn't
pay
think
to
about
have
that.
them give them advice on how to handle their kid. I think they asked their parents, their grandparents, their peers, like, like my child is so sensitive and having outbursts. Like, what do you do? And they're taking advice
From people who don't necessarily have sensitive feeling kids,
or their home values just look different.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell Phoebe all the time. I'm like, different families have different views and values and
Yeah.
how they approach
and
things.
that's okay.
That's okay. This is how ours works.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's so much grace to be found because they're really going off of their childhood.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so interesting because if I was called too sensitive, even as a child, I probably would have just giggled because I'm probably the opposite.
Right.
I'm like not emotional
Uh-huh.
enough. And so I think that too, maybe it goes into different kids can feel different
Mhm.
ways.
Yeah.
And so what affects one child isn't going to affect a different child and in the same way.
Right.
So growing up in kind of, you describe it as a large and supportive family, but it was kind of complex.
Mm-hmm.
How did that influence your emotional development?
That was amazing. We had the most wonderful childhood and family. But two truths.
It always.
For me as a child, it was a lot of noise and chaos where that made me shut down and dysregulate. But also, it was very confusing because my mom kind of would lean into me being a sensitive child or a deeply feeling child, whereas one of my grandmothers was like, no,
None
this
of
is
that.
too much. You're too loud. Other family members would have this opinion. So it felt like confusing
So confusing.
because I looked to them, and I still do looking back. They were all raising me with alongside my parents. That's just how my family was. Like, your aunts raised you, your uncles, your grandparents. So their opinion really mattered to me. And so it was just confusing as like, who has the
authority
Whereas
to form my identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So lots of confusion, but at the same time, a family that was, they'll do anything for you.
Yeah.
I mean, ride or dies.
That's amazing. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's such a blessing
It is.
to have because people don't have that.
Yeah. It's like quirky, loud, chaotic, beautiful, messy, wonderful, magical, all the things.
And probably doing the best they could,
100%.
literally. And if they knew better, they would have done better.
Right. I say that too. I feel like as a mom, I'm not perfect.
No,
There
none of
will
us are.
Exactly. And I hope when Phoebe becomes a mom, if she becomes a mom,
Mhm.
she's going to do things differently than I did raising her. Like,
Yeah.
hey, mom, that actually didn't work for me, so I'm not going to carry that.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean it
Over.
was wrong or a mistake.
Right. It just means her particular brain did not process that in a way that was helpful.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it was like super harmful. And it could be to some degree.
Yeah. And it depends on the thing, of course.
Yes. But it just meant it wasn't helpful. And I would hope that she would want to do that differently.
And have the strength to come
Mhm.
to you and say, hey, this didn't work for me.
Right.
Would you find yourself getting upset if she came to you or not called you out? I feel like I always want Noah to call me out sometimes. I'm like, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I feel like it's an opportunity to connect
Yeah.
and repair. And at that time, if she were to have a kid, I would be a grandma.
Yeah.
And I would want to know how she would want me to be a part of their life.
So you wouldn't think that you would know better.
No. I know I
Well, I know
better.
you, but I do think that's kind of a common thing, at least that I've seen on but it's not a diss to the grandparents or the moms at all,
Mm-mm.
because I think they're like, oh, well, I've raised a kid, I don't,
Right.
I know how to do it. I know how to do it. Like,
You turned out just
you
fine.
turned out just fine. Exactly.
And like, yes, to
Yes.
some degree.
But like some things have changed, just like
Yeah.
we have, car seats now.
yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
yeah.
It's like, okay, are we silly for using a car seat?
Yeah.
Hell.
And this is like specific to just how we're being raised as children. This is not you and I talking about people who actually have
No.
like domestic childhood trauma
No,
where it is
This is like our childhood
and
to be.
strict.
And
Yes.
we have, I feel like, a very similar
Mhm.
upbringing.
Yeah.
Yes, this is not people who were abused by their
Mhm.
parents, who were, whether that's emotional, physical, sexual, any of that. That is absolutely not what
We're
we're
not
talking about. I don't think they did the best they could, if that's the case. So,
Right.
no, thank you for clarifying. So then did you ever talk about your identity with your family?
No.
No, like who you were individually?
I don't think I've ever fully sat with that,
Really?
to be quite honest.
Even
I don't
after
think I've-
motherhood, like becoming a mom?
That would be the one thing.
Okay.
And I do still believe, we can have an identity outside of being a mom too. For me, that's my life right now. That's
Yeah.
my identity. That may change, or I may have something else that I
Yeah.
just haven't really reflected on. But yeah, no, I don't think I've ever really sat down and reflected on my identity. I think motherhood is just who I am at my core.
Yeah.
And I think that probably started with me from
From birth.
teeny tiny. Yes.
No, I totally and I think that some people everyone is a good mom, truly. Like if
Mhm.
they are try at it and they're working on it, they're amazing. But I do think that some people are truly just born to be
Be
moms.
moms,
And that's exactly, you're one of
Mhm.
them. Charlie, one of my friends, is one of them.
It's like caretakers.
Yeah, they just love it.
Yeah.
And
yes.
there's no other job that you want to have.
Right.
It's like that is, I mean, sure, you want to still get out and, do things. You don't want to just do kid things, but yeah, it's just so beautiful.
Who you are at
Who
your
you
core.
are at your
And
core.
it's what feeds my soul.
Yeah.
Even on the hard days, which
Of
I have hard days
course.
and I'm like, oh, gosh, but it still nourishes me.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like, being a mom, it's a little bit different for me, because I don't think I have this like entrepreneurial drive, this different career drive, but I also still have that mom drive too.
Mhm.
So I don't think that I'm like at my core, my identity is 100% mom, but it's definitely larger than I thought it was going into having kids. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that more in mine.
That's very similar to how my mom
Mhm.
is. where she is a great mom, wonderful mom, but she also has that drive as a businesswoman.
Yeah.
I like the best way to describe her would be a provider.
Yeah.
Like, and she's a very hard worker with very helpful hands.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just like that too, where she wanted to be both, and
Yeah.
she should
But it's
have been.
hard.
It's hard, and I think finding that balance is so crucial. Whereas I feel more similar to my mom's mom, who is like lived, breathed, died
Her
to
kid.
be a mom. And it was a kindergarten teacher. Even with my kids as a great grandma,
Aw.
it's like kids are
Her life.
her life. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's where I really connect with her.
Yeah. No, I totally get that, because as a mom, you want to do everything for your kids. And, I always, there's stuff that I see on social media, and it's like, you need to pour into your own cup. You need to put your
Mhm.
oxygen mask on first and all of this stuff. And I always want to, put my kids first. So it's kind of
Mhm.
hard for me sometimes to put my career
Yeah.
first.
It doesn't feel natural.
No, because literally at my core, I'm like, oh wait, evolutionarily too. I'm like, I want to put my kid. Also, I want to make sure that I don't mess up my kids or traumatize my kids, because I'm always working or something like that. I'm still trying to find the balance. I'm not perfect, but I just really admire the way that you love motherhood and like really lean into it. And
Thank you.
you're such a good mom.
Oh, thank you.
You really are. And so, not that I'm saying I'm not, but
You are. You're a wonderful mom.
it's sometimes I go back and forth on, should I be filling up my cup with work and providing for my family, or should I be more focused at home? And I think that a lot of women go through that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's okay to fill up I think I show up as a better mom when I
you
do
fill
work
up your
some.
cup. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And even my sister, we're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grew up in the same home. She works and then has her babies.
Mhm.
And finding that balance, I'm sure, is extremely hard. But she likes to have
likes
that
it.
time. And
Yeah.
I think she deserves to have that time along with everyone
Yeah,
else.
I think so too. It just each
it shows
person's
up in different ways. Yes.
Okay, so what confused or challenged you most about the way that faith was presented to you in childhood?
Oh, this is a good
Because
one.
this was interesting how
Yes.
you explained it.
You mean my parent
Yeah.
dynamic?
Yes, yeah.
So,
I think it's more common too than you think.
yeah. So my mom, very religious,
Mhm.
and my dad, very not.
Indifferent.
And it's not that he straight up is an atheist or anything like that. He just, he wasn't into going to church every Sunday and, having this lifestyle of you do this, 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 and this, you follow these rules, that wasn't.
Because it probably felt like rules to him, and
Absolutely.
there was no relationship there.
Yes. Yes, no relationship. And so I'm really grateful for it, because I did feel like I didn't have it forced
Mhm.
on me. Even with my mom being religious, my mom was hopeful that we would have a relationship with God. She never forced it down our throats. And then, we had our dad where we're like, oh, you actually can live life 2 different ways. And it felt like we had the freedom of choice,
That's
which
kind of
was
beautiful and not common.
it was very, very beautiful. And like I said, my mom was hopeful, not pressuring. But it also was really confusing,
Yeah.
because it's like you look to your parents for guidance,
Yeah.
or not even necessarily that. It's what's being modeled in front of you is where you kind of
Fit
follow.
into. Yeah.
And so we were being modeled in 2 different ways. And I think that's where the confusion came from, where, I don't think
Did they
any of
go
us-
to church together?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say my dad went to church to support his wife,
Well,
because
still to
she
this
wanted
day?
her. Yes and
Yeah.
no. I think he's just now starting to find that he wants to go. But growing up, that might not be his truth. That's what it felt like as a child. It felt like my mom wanted her kids in the church on Sundays and Wednesdays, and he wanted to support her.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really common dynamic.
And even though he's sitting there, not necessarily like soaking everything in and having his relationship grow, he's sitting with his wife and he's allowing that space for his children. He never, ever, ever was like, this is not real. This is,
thank goodness,
baloney. He never, ever, he just sat.
Did he ever talk to you about his potential doubts, or did he just seem not into it?
He just didn't. I don't know if his mind had. He grew up in the church, so that might be a great question for him to really kind of dig into that.
Yeah.
The only thing I've ever heard him really say doubt wise is, and this was recently-ish. He was like, I think when you die, it just goes black.
Oh.
And I was like, I think it does, if that's what you believe.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that. For my spirit,
yeah,
I think you do find darkness if you
seek it.
Like, I think that's true.
Yeah.
For you. And I was like, but I believe in heaven and I believe in Jesus, and I believe that's where my spirit will go.
Yeah.
And I think he's open to he's open to that. He probably took that and processed it and internalized. I don't know if he says it out of fear or doubt or what, or if he like truly believes in it. But that's the only thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
And it was more out of
so it was more his actions than growing up that made you feel he was
not that he didn't have a relationship.
Not ever really his words, more his actions.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he never talked.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to describe it is he never talked about Jesus, where my mom was praying and talking about Jesus and Bible stories with us.
Yeah.
And he was just going about his day, essentially.
That's so interesting. How did your view of God then evolve as you transitioned from a child to a teenager?
It went from, this is just what I grew up with. And like I said, I didn't really know who God was truly, if I'm being honest, as a child, like who God was.
But you were going to church. You were
doing that.
I
knew what a Christian life looked like. I did not deeply know God. So when I went from a child to a teenager, it was non-existent.
Because it wasn't cool, or it wasn't like, it just, or maybe because the relationship wasn't yours.
Probably. It just felt like I didn't have the time for it. I didn't know if I believed it. And I was struggling with that point in time in like society and church and how they viewed things. Was really struggling with that. So it almost was like, that can go that way and I'm going to go this way. And I don't know if subconsciously I was like, I'll get back to that later, that relationship, and figure that all out. Or if I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I know it's like a really weird explanation.
No, it's not, because I think a lot of people have that. You're like, morally, me at my core, I don't know if I align. I don't even know who I am, one.
Right.
I don't even know if I align with what I've been taught is Christianity my entire life.
Right. Exactly.
So I also don't have the time to deal with that right now. So I'm just going to park it over here.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's super common. Did you realize that's what you were doing at the time?
No.
Or no, it just kind of.
No, I was like a teenager and I was like,
do my own thing.
Yeah. And it got to a point where it wasn't even a passing thought. Like God. And like I said, I didn't know him.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, I just moved on.
Yeah.
I don't really know who you are. I think
and
I'm
your
okay.
mom let you move on.
I'm sure she was devastated.
Yeah.
We didn't have a conversation about that.
Mm-hmm.
But she, I'm sure, could tell by my actions and my words, and I didn't want to go to church anymore. So
I think that's so interesting because a lot of people's, my own included, my mom was always like, I don't really care if you don't want to go.
oh yeah,
You're going and you can decide when you're 18
yeah,
the way you want to live your life, but we're going as family.
yeah.
So that's such an interesting, like, just totally different. Did you have friends that were not religious or friends that
Mhm.
were religious? Like, what do you think
I
influenced it the most?
I think, yes, I do think that played a part in it. It's funny because I had my Christian friends that I've had since we were teeny tiny, and I went like into high school with them.
Yeah.
And then the other group of friends I had were non-believers. Not non-believers, but there was no relationship there. It was
Yeah.
just kind of
I would
free-spirited.
say indifferent.
Yeah.
I feel like
Indifferent
that's
is
how
a
a lot
perfect
of
word.
friends of mine are.
And then one of my best friends, he comes from a Mormon family.
Okay.
So I felt like I had a little bit of
Everything.
So it didn't feel like I was really walking away from something
Mhm.
or missing something. At that time, I just was like floating with the wind and yeah, figuring it all out.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can probably relate to that,
Yeah.
especially in your teenage years, right?
Yes.
Like, you don't know who you are, what you're doing, where you're going.
I mean, your frontal lobe isn't even fully developed.
Yeah. Are they developed now?
I think at 25.
25. Yeah.
For
okay, good.
women.
Yeah. See, that's crazy
Yeah.
to me.
And you're supposed to make these like big declarations of faith
For your entire
and-
life.
Yeah, and decisions. And I was like, no, I'm just chilling. Like,
That's so no, you're like, no, I don't have time for that.
No.
I'm not about that. And, I know that that's not necessarily a great thing, but again, it's part of your story and it's kind of the way that it happened. And I think it's okay. That's how a lot of
absolutely.
people's
Yeah.
life looks like that.
Mhm.
And I think you could probably, from what you were just telling me, I think that you could see other people living their life without God.
Yeah, and they seemed
were
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're like, oh, well,
Like, tell me more about that.
it's not like you could see some like glorious, person living this very Christian life.
Right.
And it was so starkly different from somebody who wasn't.
Absolutely. Everybody was struggling,
Right? Mm-hmm.
periods of struggle, and everybody was having periods of ups.
Yeah.
It didn't seem any different surface level. It didn't seem any different looking at both.
So you were like, why would I go into this?
Right.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Last question for this section is, before we kind of dive into the pit, is can you identify when and why you began to feel disconnected from the church and Christian community? Was that the same time as not wanting to go to church? Or was there another time where you were like truly disconnected?
I was truly disconnected after that happened. I didn't want to go. I didn't feel aligned. And so it was just a Sunday morning. The service had ended, or was ending. They do the altar call at the end. And this is just me looking, observing what I'm seeing and creating a narrative. I don't know if this is what happened, but that's
the narrative.
That's how you perceived it. That's how I perceived it. But this woman was walking up to the altar call, and I was in high school. And not to stereotype whatsoever, but in my mind, she looked like lesbian. Very much so. She was sobbing, and she's walking up to the altar, and I'm like looking at the pastor, and he was like, and she turned around and walked out of the church bawling, crying. And I was like, I'm done.
Like, why? How is that indicative of?
And like I said, I don't know if this is something that her and the pastor had chatted about beforehand and he had already set a boundary, or if he was just straight up looking at her and stereotyping her the same way I was stereotyping her.
Yeah.
Or
was it because she had like a shaved head, or she had colored hair?
It was like very, very short hair, which doesn't mean anything. But again, this was in like the early 2000s.
That makes it, yes.
So the very short hair, more like masculine clothing. And she was obviously struggling with something.
Yeah.
So in my mind, she's struggling with sexuality is what I'm looking at. And again, I'm creating this narrative. This could not be true at all.
But I'm glad that you're saying this, because this happens all the time.
All the time.
I mean, as much as we don't want, everyone still does it. Everybody is stereotyping,
Right.
whether they realize it or not. They have a bias.
Right. And I don't know if that pastor left the service and chatted with her later.
Maybe he was just saying it was a bad time.
Right. I don't know what happened, but I know that was a pivotal moment for me. Regardless of what happened, I know, like you said, in society and religion, that was a problem anyway.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I was like, I'm done. And not because I was like, Jesus loves everybody, which he does.
Yeah.
You're preaching love to us every Sunday, and then you're going to turn this human away
Obviously
who is distraught, hurting. It was like, it turned me off because someone who is in a position of authority, who is preaching love and acceptance and grace and kindness, and this woman is being completely vulnerable and human, and she's clearly broken about something, and you said no. That's when I was like, this doesn't align with my spirit. I don't know what the actual truth is, but I know you're a human being. You're hurting. I'm going to love you.
Yeah.
And that's what aligns with my soul. I don't care who you are. So immediately I was like, no.
Yeah.
And so after that, it was like I really, really, really struggled with religion and society's views on what is acceptable and what's not. And I didn't even want to get political. I was just like, why does it even matter? Everybody needs to be loved.
Yeah.
You're a human. You need to be loved. Period. That doesn't, and I'm not diving into the depths because I know it's more complex than that. But in that moment, she was not met with love and compassion. And that was a problem for me.
Well, let me ask you this. If the pastor was actually Jesus, what do you think Jesus would have done?
I personally believe, from reading about his ministry and people sitting at his table that people did not think would be sitting with the Messiah. They were like, what are you doing with them? What are you doing accepting them, loving them, healing them, caring for them, letting them cry on your shoulder? I feel like that Jesus would have never turned that woman away. Yeah. If she was walking to him crying, and I'm obviously not going to put words in Jesus' mouth.
Yeah.
But the Jesus that I have a relationship with today, I'm confident that he wouldn't turn a soul down.
And it wouldn't matter what time, you say this all the time, and I love this, is that Jesus was so easily interrupted. So it doesn't really matter that maybe service was about to start
or end
or whenever, or it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And not to place like a God complex on a pastor, because they're not Jesus. And I know that's not what you're saying.
They're a person.
But you're still held to a higher standard.
Yeah. You're being called to a position that people look up to, and they have a relationship. The only other relationship people have I think with a pastor is like, or similar to a pastor, is what? Like a mentor?
Yeah.
A parent?
Therapist.
Yeah. So it's a position of power. And if people think it's not, I think you're lying. Like, the Lord, what is that? There's like some quote that's like, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's so true.
Yeah.
And so look, and again, everybody has off days. Not everybody's perfect.
Right.
But yeah. So thank you so much for being so vulnerable with
Yeah.
us and sharing. And I know that people are really going to resonate with a lot that you said and a lot of the way that you felt. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So next up, this is the end of the second section, but the next part, the third part of the testimony is going to be the pit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
The
have
dark
any?
stuff.
Yeah, do you have any teasers?
I don't know, just very dark.
Probably gonna be the hardest one to talk about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely going to be the hardest one for me, for sure.
Well, we will be it. We'll go through it together.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks for joining us today, guys. Thanks for being here with us today. If something resonated, maybe a sentence, a silence, or a story, hold on to that. If you felt seen or stirred or simply curious, we hope you'll join us again. Until then, stay open, stay tender, and remember, there's always a seat for you at the table.